Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Let's jump right to it with our guest today. The first question, as always, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, Shaun. My name is Shaun Dawson. I run a consulting company that helps clients leverage the benefits of automation within their business. So we help them establish an automation mindset and then leverage emerging technologies to help get humans to do what humans are uniquely good at, and use computers for what computers are uniquely good at.
Fantastic. Question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
I think the best thing about working with a team is probably the leverage that you get out of it. I mean, the fact is that you can only get so much done, and once you get to that limit, the single contributor limit, there's only so much value that can create in the world, and so to be able to expand upon that, you need a bunch of people in the boat rowing the same direction, and that leverage is tremendously powerful.
That's a great comment. I like that that imagery of everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. Makes a lot of sense. Well, question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, I can see how that's an issue, and I'll tell you, I think that it if you're in that situation, then you really need to ask the question. You need to start asking the questions why, right, and keep going. And I would argue that in many of the times that I've seen in dysfunctional teams or lack of engagement and that sort of thing, what I see is that there's not a real common strong vision at the top that is focusing the team. If we all have something on the wall that we can look at and say, all right, that's our goal, then it's easy to make those decisions about, oh, well, should I be rowing on the left side of the boat or should I be rowing on the right side of the boat? Well, yeah, I know, because we're not pointing straight at that sign, so I know to row on the right side of the boat. And I think that, I think that if you keep asking the 5 whys, I think you'll often get to that central thing, and you'll end up in a situation where a leader has to micromanage in order. They have to, hey, Joe, no, you need to be on the left side of the boat now. No, you need to be on the right side of the boat now. And Joe doesn't know what he's doing, and that's, again, that goes back to this failure. Joe isn't able to understand where his role in the entire picture is, and how he fits into the vision. And so I think that starting from a situation of this passionate shared vision is fundamental to that.
I could not agree more, because vision is one of those things that sometimes the leaders don't instill very well. They may have it in their mind, but they don't communicate it very well to the team members, and then that's where there's the disconnect, or they don't help the team members see what value the team members bringing to help contribute to that vision. And so that's such a great reminder. Thank you for sharing that.
I along those lines, one of my very, very first management roles, I was doing a project, and I came up with Dawson's first law of management, which was, if you need to show somebody what to do, you also need to show them whether they're doing it right, or how to know whether they're doing it right. And because otherwise, and to expand upon that in the team sense, showing them what to do is that tactical thing about running the team, but giving them the mechanism to know whether they're doing it right is providing that vision on the wall. And that has served me really, really well throughout my history.
Yeah, great comments. Thank you for sharing that. Well, question number 4, what other piece of advice do you have for leaders of teams?
The hardest thing for me has always been how to effectively delegate, and to trust that once I delegate something, then it's going to get done in a way that I can trust. And part of that is getting the right team members on your team. But the other part of it is just being willing to take that leap. And, so it doesn't help you to build this absolutely amazing team if you can't trust them to do what needs to be done and delegate that. And by the way, there's almost no value in having a team if you still have to have your fingers in all the pies. And so you have to pull your fingers out of the pies, even though that means that it's not going to be done the way that you would do it. And by the way, that's half of the time, that's a good thing. Half of the time, maybe it's not, right? I would do it better. Okay, fine. But half of the time that person's going to figure out a better way to do it. And over time, they certainly will. And so for me, and I don't know what challenges other people have, but for me, that delegation has been a real challenge for me. And being able to, I'm usually able to find good team members and keep them engaged and motivated by providing that vision and going forward. But boy, the hardest thing for me is to just kind of say, all right, now go to town, and then not want to get my fingers in that pie and literally every time you sit over someone's shoulder and you watch what you do and make recommendations that they haven't asked for, you're disabling them. And if you don't, and that's hard. That's just hard not to do because the stakes are really high, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that and for being willing to kind of open up a little bit and say, hey, this is something I struggle with, because what you described is something that I think a lot of leaders struggle with without even realizing it sometimes, is that they're overshadowing and micromanaging and not realizing that they're diminishing the efforts of their team without even being aware of it. So thank you for sharing that. Question number 5, what other successful leaders of teams would you like to recognize that have had a positive influence in your life?
The biggest one that comes to mind for me is a guy by the name of Michael Martin. He's a dear friend of mine, a mentor of mine. He was the CEO of a company that I was the CTO of, called Bell Tower Technologies, which is a fantastic company. I loved being a part of it, and it was spectacular. And when I start looking back at the things in my life that I'm proud of, and the opinions that I have, and philosophies that I have, and a lot of that goes back to conversations that I had with Mike. And I can point specifically to aspects of this conversation that that whole notion about having computers do what computers are good at and humans do what humans are good at. A lot of that comes from Mike, and so he was a very still is a real important person in my life, and I owe a lot of who I am today to our work together.
Well, thank you for recognizing him. Question number 6, last question. Tell us about your first job.
Okay, my first job was I started a company to sell firewood in my neighborhood in Hollywood. So I was going on a vacation with my parents. We were going to Wyoming, and we were going to be camping out in the woods. And I thought, wow, okay, here's a way to make some money. I wanted a robot. Actually, I wanted to buy this robot, and I needed, I don't know, $150 or something like that, something completely unattainable for a 10-year-old kid. And so I went around the neighborhood and tried to get people to buy firewood from me, and worked on it for several days, got exactly one customer who ordered half a cord of wood from me. I had to figure out what a cord was. And that wasn't enough money to pay for the trailer to bring it back. And so I actually never fulfilled the order, and to this day regret. And I never took money either, so it's okay. But yeah, no, to this day that was my first job, and it was my first failed business.
But nonetheless, you've stuck with it and you're an entrepreneur today as
That's
well.
true. Yeah, that's true. There are many other failures since then that have helped guide me to where I am. So,
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing the story. And Shaun, thank you again also for being on our podcast today. How can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me at Shaun Dawson at LinkedIn. My company is called Robiquity, and you can find me at robiquity.com. And I'm also at sdawson at robiquity.com.
Fantastic. This is Shaun Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.